Welcome back to the most professional beyond all reason with our first commander, the Cortex in the red. It's Sashkorin. Up against the Cortex commander in the blue, it's Autopilot. A highlight match from the Beyond All Reason Pro League semifinals, and it's been a while. So if you're a new, returning, or much better experienced Beyond All Reason player, it'd be awesome if you could smash that like button, and maybe even subscribe to help counter the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we... I know it's been a while. 200 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I've been getting back into it. I'll probably do it anyways. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. Let's go over some of the basics. This is 1v1. Each side has one commander. You lose your commander, you lose the game. Nothing else technically matters. Of course, there's a few other details getting to that point. The commander itself, very difficult for individual units to take down. The distance on this map is quite dramatic here on Canis River, so it's very unlikely there will be a deadly amount of units coming across early, which gives us plenty of time to explain what we're looking at in that top right corner with this pretty amazing spectator interface that's been developed lately. First, of course, is metal per second. Metal makes the world go round, or at least allows you to exploit it. Probably the most important resource by far is that metal count, and being able to build anything is reliant on having metal income. Then you got energy gathered by windmills and solar power, later on geothermals and fusions, that allows you to turn that metal into the things you want, whether it's basic tanks, these little rascals, which are currently being used to pressure the early metal extractors, which buildings mostly made out of tissue paper despite their metal-based activities. And then you have build power. Build power is how quickly you can shove those resources into something you like. Like, if one construction bot can make a sandwich in a minute, two of them, if you have the resources, can make it twice as quickly. The amount of build power you have to bring to bear is directly related to your production speed. So, not as important as having the resources, but certainly not something to sneeze at. Wow, those rascals getting surprising damage early. And then you have total metal production, total energy production, and that's just kind of an indicator of how many resources they mined and produced throughout the game. Army value, pretty self-explanatory. It's in metal overall, including the commander, who's worth 1250 nowadays. Damage, or defense value rather. How many turrets and other such things. Utility, which is, to my understanding, construction, turrets, stuff like that. And then you have economy value. How much you've spent on things that further your economy, like metal extractors. And then, of course, damage dealt overall, which doesn't necessarily translate to being ahead, but it hurts them more than you, ideally. So on such a huge map, starting things off, another key part of BAR is not having more production facilities, but using that build power to speed along a single one. That's why both players now have a single vehicle plan as their early game choice. The vehicle's by far the best for moving around such a large map. Bots have advantages in smaller maps where they can go over kind of unwieldy terrain. Aircraft are great, but don't hold ground well because they fly right over it. And it's relatively easy to counter aircraft early, so pretty rare we see that in 1v1. So I'm looking forward to seeing more. So far, both players just expanding outwards and using the commander for its early build power. Probably the easiest and most secure way to take these bases. Another thing to keep track of, and beyond all reason, one unit does not equal one unit. Just because you have two units firing at each other, one might have a decisive victory. It's one of the most interesting things of the game that's kind of hard to see when you're just looking at icons from a bird's eye or even satellite view. Units have flanking damage, where if one unit attacks from a separate angle as one of their teammates, they can do way more damage, which allows you to counter stronger units with smaller units, even if on paper and in like a unit tester scenario, they might crush each other. Another thing is almost everything is affected by accuracy or range. Lasers, like you can see here on the incisors, they have between 48 and 97 damage. That's dependent on how far away the attack is. Whereas different sorts of units have different projectiles, which, depending on how fast or how far they're traveling, may be more or less accurate. And friendly fire is very much a possibility, though some might argue it's unfriendly in general. So, to start things off, the first real aggression, besides the early rascals, is going to be this incisor attack from Autopilot. Sneaking along the left side, going to the Sashkorin view, he has no vision, and it's just about now he has radar coverage up to this exact location, but he has no idea this is coming yet. And it's very hard to get units into position if you're that far away. So it's very likely this will do some damage if he hits at the right time. And here we go. That single tank gonna be taken out with ease. Just making his way by. In towards the main economy. Taking out construction bots can be incredibly annoying, as you don't want to spend any of your resources on that later on. The incisors coming back to defend. There is a single laser turret in the main base, so that's making things a little bit easier. Overall, this run by finding significant economic damage, but now that brings us to another important part of Beyond All Reason. Reclaim. So, there's now 731 metal on the ground. When a unit gets destroyed, most of the time, it leaves behind a wreck, which can be reclaimed for up to a significant fraction of the metal that was cost on it originally, or potentially resurrected if you spend enough energy and have res bots, but it doesn't look like we have that here. In fact, right now we see Sashkorin grabbing that metal overall, and you can see him upping the metal per second count, at least at this moment. So the interesting part of that is, even though the economy was somewhat hamstrung by the run-by, overall, he committed all those resources on Sashkorin's side of the map. And that means, technically, Sashkorin has now produced more metal because those tanks have gone into his income tab. But there's something to be said about being the aggressor, as right now Autopilot with another division of tanks is making his way through the center, going to cut down a few of the metal extractors. And there's no real response here. He's going to cut past most of the turrets. The construction bots retreating. The commander is far too distant to help with this. Another advantage to going for the vehicles early on. Meanwhile, a counterattack, though. Autopilot has almost no defenses on the front line. Gonna lose the construction bot. Chasing down one of his own. And Autopilot towards the north side, actually. D-gun used. One-shots pretty much everything on the field from that commander, but it doesn't leave behind a wreck. That is a disadvantage of using the D-gun against a lot of those early game units. Well, units in general, even if they're juggernauts. Sashkorin continuing to move forward on what some might argue is Autopilot's side of the river. But if he can't hold it, then really it isn't. Meanwhile, the incisors on both sides exchanging fire, but Sashkorin definitely has the numbers advantage here, and he's using it to great effect. And in fact, he's transitioned somewhat into aircraft. He's got shurikens. With their EMP attack, they could stun units, lock them down, and make it very easy for even smaller amounts of units to knock them out. But Autopilot, not to be outdone, also has some aircraft and is building some fighters in order to counter it. The aircraft plant. A single construction turret on it. The build power distributed pretty evenly throughout. But a main attack coming in. The shurikens disabling the turrets before the turrets are able to get the damage done themselves. Technically, they can fire at the air, but they're not designed for it. A great flank. I make that concave instead. The shuriken's coming out. Both sides. Whoever has the fighters will easily be able to wipe them out of the sky. But that does cost more metal. Right now, the metal advantage still going to Sashkorin. Both these players rank 57, which puts them in the, well, this is the semifinals of the Pro League, so we'd say top 4, but easily the top 20 overall on the leaderboards. Just for reference. So far, Autopilot dealing way more damage But that hasn't translated into a significant economy advantage because the damage has been dealt in a way that Sashkorin can reclaim the metal easily. The lines are drawn. Neither player has perfect vision of the other side of the river, though a radar tower is giving Autopilot a lot more info to this northern side. Does he know about? Yes, he knows about these bases to the south. But those extra metal extractors are starting to add up. Now, neither player even thinking about Tier 2. The Tier 2 units and labs, incredibly expensive. Prohibitively so. Until later on. 2,800 metal, by the way. Which is the cost of dozens of tanks and could easily turn things around. Let alone the energy production it requires in order to produce it. So, going for Tier 2 too early can easily be a game-losing mistake. But if you get away with it, of course, it can turn the tides. And, well, for now, the shurikens coming in. Some brutes coming out for Sashkorin. But with the shurikens, he can lock a lot of these units down. The fighters exchanging on the high ground. And by high ground, I mean the air. But Sashkorin has more fighters. He wins the battle. And all the wrecks will be on his side of the map. That's a lot of metal left on the ground. Leon Sizer's chasing. He's trying to engage. There is the commander a little further back, which, with this many tanks, could be vulnerable, and this could end quite dramatically. Meanwhile, using this time to cut down. Some buildings, like metal extractors and some turrets, explode and do damage nearby. And Sashkorin cutting through. Down the center, fighters still going. But a concave of tanks, and he's adding in... Wait, no brutes yet, but pounders. Heavy tanks. Very good for dealing with large groups of units, but very slow as well. So more of a defensive tool, or something to push through when you have the advantage. Both players moving their commanders to the north side, but Autopilot able to sneak a few tanks through to the south. If he's able to break through these turrets, he can reduce the metal that much more, which is at about 1% difference so far. Continuing to dance back and forth on the northern choke point. Both sides have reclaimed their basic area. The army value 12% more for the red team. Sashkorin. He's looking to press through. Starting. He's finally got a few construction turrets to try to take advantage of. Ooh, as well as a heavy transport. Not a heavy transport. Light air transport. A Hercules will be knocked out of the sky almost immediately. Can be repaired. The fighters take it out. But the standoff will continue. Slightly, metal production is near even. The brutes exchanging fire, but the pounders helping out a lot. And the wrecks of their friendly tanks slowing things down. They do have collision. And the tanks really struggling to move over, but some thugs now making their way up. Sashkorin transitioning into a bot push, has all three flavors of early pressure. Meanwhile, try to come through with the light tanks to the north side. Doesn't work out. The commanders dangerously close to one another. You can't de-gun a commander. In fact, it can block one. But Autopilot looking to target fire if possible. They're still going back and forth. The thugs are quite good on DPS, but they're very slow and can easily get overrun by tanks if you're not careful. Still, though, a pretty cheap choice. He's going for the huge flank. The commander being targeted. The D-gun wiping out a lot of the incisors here. Autopilot doing what he can. Oh, the commander down to 10%. And he's losing the fight, trying to body block out. Brutes in the way of things. 12%. Kill the commander. Win the game. That's it. That's all it takes. But reinforcements streaming in from both sides, and Sashkorin maybe has successfully baited here, but the wrecks dot the field. There's just so many of them. It's almost impossible for the tanks to move forward, which I think is going to favor Sashkorin as long as he's able to survive. The repair turret's helping him out back up to 20%, and Autopilot has lost a critical mass of units. And now his commander is the one vulnerable. He was trying to take advantage of this. More shurikens coming in to slow it down. Brutes coming out as well. Taking advantage of that slight high ground as well, but the fighters will knock him out of the sky. Autopilot starting to take damage on his commander as well. That's so many turrets. He didn't quite finish the twin guard turret, which is so good against these smaller units. Bit of a mistake there, but trying to go up to the high ground. Meanwhile, Resbots are putting a push back together, spending energy and I believe some metal, but they're able to resurrect units a lot quicker than they'll be produced back at home, and cheaper as well. So turning this push effectively a zombie push. If he's not careful, though, he's just going to lose all of them to a withering barrage from the tanks. The thugs still moving forward. Sashkorin continuing to reclaim. He's gotten a 10% metal lead overall. Autopilot is holding, but how does he turn it around? Meanwhile, a counterattack as well. Not really a counterattack, just a multi-prong. The shurikens can shut that down for now. But it seems like a near insurmountable advantage for Sashkorin. He's produced 12% more metal. He has 20% more army value. He currently has more metal per second. Still no tier 2 from either side, but he's managed to grab, well, both sides have managed to grab the geothermals. We've got some mines coming out, but the mine layer's taken down. And the sheer unit count here, 19 thugs. He's building them so quickly. He has 5 construction turrets shoving their build power into that bot lab and claiming a lot of this. It's going to take either a big mistake or a dramatic move from Autopilot in order to turn this around. Oh, a big mistake from Sashkorin or some sort of flank. He knows the commander is out there, but he can't just run up on him, especially with that D gun available. The standoff continues. The thug count is gratuitous. He now has 23 of them right there, continuing to add brutes as well. A brute force attack indeed. Trying to add now a heavy laser turret, but arcing out, doing a good job of mitigating the damage across the board. There's still a lot of brutes going to work. Autopilot, the commander, trying to help out as well, and so far not able to break that location. But it continues to be a vulnerable point. The shurikens added in. There's still some fighters patrolling around for Sashkorin in case he wants to make a difference here. The shurikens are revealed. The fighters aren't dragged in quite yet. This is his attempt to turn it around. The fighters are still not being pulled to the front, but there's enough. Technically, everything has anti-air. They're just not very good at it, depending on their type of projectile. Autopilot trying to move up. The wreckage still dots the field. An absolute brutal exchange between these two. There's still so much wreckage they could barely fight, even though both are trying to take advantage of it as best they can. Sashkorin has mostly repaired his commander. It's back over 50%, but the tank's moving forward. A few pounders in the back, helping out dramatically. Meanwhile, though, another attack. This is why he lost some ground at the front. He drives through and he's going straight for the production. Without the economy back home, it's quite decentralized, but not so much that that can't make the difference. Autopilot moving forward. The tanks just blasting the thugs. The thugs are returning fire. And now attacking up into Sashkorin's high ground. He has reclaimed a lot here, though. The army value is actually in favor of Autopilot, who's played a more careful style past the early game and has managed to claim most of this battlefield. Reclaim it more accurately. And now resurrecting a lot of the tanks. Sashkorin getting dangerously close to the front line, which is breaking quickly as the thugs are cut down. A lot of the tanks try to move forward, but are across the field as Autopilot continues. He's still going to work. Still no tier 2 from either side. The pressure continues. But wait, what's that? Tier 2's done. He has a Tsar. He brought in the heavy transport. Wait a second. Oh, no. It's a disaster. Those shots are so devastating. The first tier 2 unit. And it's just blasting through. He's trying to get... He manages to stun it with the shurikens. And if he can just take it out, that's a massive 1,600 metal investment. Technically more expensive than the commander. He tries to turn the tides. But the Tsar is overrun immediately. Did he at least get... He does have tier 2 metal extractors in the main, which are worth 4 times as much as the tier 1 if you can get to them. But the investment takes quite a while. Another Tsar. The very heavy assault tank. They didn't tell me your mother was coming. The twin guards holding. But only just. And with the Tsar shots, is there a tier 2? Is he just now getting it? I think he just finished it. Yeah, no tier 2. So the Tsar is going mostly unchallenged. The one swell... Does he even have vision? I think he's just firing it. He doesn't have perfect vision, but he doesn't need it with shots like that. Continues blasting. The army value has gone in favor of Sashkorin as the push continues. The Tsar, a devastating choice with the transport. The fighters try to take out what they can. Resbot's getting obliterated. And that heavy laser turret, though pretty much the last thing standing between Autopilot and destruction. No, a counterattack splits off some of the tanks. A defensive Tsar, but the fighter, if he takes it down, he's not able to get the turn on it. Gonna land and fight directly. And the Tsar has to turn that turret around. It takes quite a bit. He's really actually struggling to get shots off on this. Meanwhile, though, the main push coming through. Another Tsar, everything explodes. The metal extractors are taken out, but the push is taken down. Now a Tsar out of autopilot. Dramatic. But remember, it comes down to the commander. Well, the commander is still on the field. They both have a shot at it. The metal per second heavily in favor. He's trying to get a tier 2 geothermal, which is a massive amount of energy, but is also a huge investment at this stage. The Tsar continues to move forward. There's an inexorable push. The counter Tsars, without the transport, they're taking forever to get there. Not the time. At this point, I think it's better to just... Well, that geothermal's almost completed, but if it completes, it's going to be an oh, wait, is this... Who's this better for? Oh! Well, he loses the tier 2 geo, which is a massive investment, destroyed. But it takes out about as many of Sashkorin units as autopilots. The thing is, without the geo, without the economy, the army value is heavily in favor of red. And now, I don't know exactly what the Tsar count is. If we go to the player camera, we can select all and see 3 Tsars for autopilot. And 5 of them for Sashkorin. The Tsars are closing in. He's going for the commander, though. The Hail Mary. The commander can't get out of here. Oh, he's taking a lot of hits. He cloaks. Oh, no. He wins. Oh, a classic mistake. An autopilot. I'm not sure about the etiquette on this, but he throws out the GG. Even though, I have to say... So that's how it ends. Not that. So that's how it ends, but... Well, what a demonstration. Despite the advantages that Sashkorin clearly had up to the end, his commander was left out. You can't get caught. How much was left? The army units killed. He had more of them. Units died. Well, at the very end, you can see when the geo exploded. Or, well, here. Well, right when the commander okay, wait, maybe that... I think the geo exploded. He was right there. But the metal used, energy, I mean, yeah, metal production, you can see up here as well. Autopilot, seizing the opportunity. And that, I think, is one of the most interesting parts of the game, but also can be very frustrating in this sort of scenario, where you have the advantage, you have the map control, you have the economy, but you don't have a commander. So now you don't have a game. GG, Autopilot, anything but, finds an opportunity, and he snipes it off. So, I hope you enjoyed. Congratulations to Autopilot on the victory, and let me know what you want to see. The game just keeps going after. Like, you can just go back and whatever's on queue is still producing. But you can find some more guides on this channel if you're interested, and streams as well, and there's plenty out there. And what do you want to see? 1v1? 4v4? 8v8? We got some of the 40 versus 40 games from the big event not long ago as well, and those will be posted soon, TM. But either way, thank you for watching. I've got the means of motivation. I'll have to check it. Awesome. Check out Patreon, but either way, I hope I made your day a little bit better. Thank you for watching. Good luck. Have fun. I'll see you next time. Stay unreasonable.